Hey y'all, this is Vienna with Glitter Baddies Boutique, and today I'm going to show you guys how I made this beautiful pink drink snow globe tumbler. Everybody has their own ways of doing it, but I'm going to show you how I do mine. So first things first, you're going to need an acrylic tumbler. I'm using the Starbucks cups, 24 ounces. These are double walled, so you will need to go ahead and drill your holes into them. I personally do 2, but you can do 1 if you want. And I use a medium to light pressure when drilling these holes. You don't want to crack through the tumbler, so just be careful and make sure you are holding your cup firm and still. Once this step is done, you can go ahead and clear off your surface before moving on to the next step. For this project, you're going to need polymer clay slices. I'm using the strawberry slices from Crafty Cup Source. You're going to need some acrylic paint. You can choose any color shade of pink that you like. I'm going to be mixing these 2. And then you're going to need your solution. I have mine pre-mixed. It is 1/3 Elmers Glue and 2/3 Distilled Water. The glitter is optional, but I'm adding in Pink Platinum XL from It's Pretty Personal Glitter. Again, all of the supplies will be linked below for you, as always. And then to start, I'm going to add a little bit of distilled water. This is going to help your glitter not get clumped up at the top and tape off your tumbler. That way we can apply our glitter. You don't need a lot of water. So I'm going to start by adding my shapes first. And this step can take a little bit of time, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over actually putting them in and move on to the next step here. And once you have enough clay pieces to your liking, go ahead and add glitter if you're going to. If not, you can just skip over this step. Again, the glitter is optional. I just think it adds a nice little touch to it. And I added about 2 servings, I guess, of the glitter. For reference, this is how much glitter and clay pieces I added. You can definitely add more or less if you'd like to. So as mentioned previously, my solution is already pre-mixed, so I just grabbed a separate bottle, poured my already mixed solution into that bottle, and then I'm going to be adding my acrylic paint. I do want this to be a little bit lighter, but not too light, so I added about 3 drops of the light pink paint and then about 1 drop of the darker pink. If you have the correct shade that you like, then you just need to do about 3 drops on average of the paint. You don't want to add too much because then it can get kind of clumpy. But once you have the shade of pink that you like, go ahead and shake that up. I am obsessed with this color. I love adding that darker shade into my light pink. I think it adds the perfect amount of pink to this tumbler. So go ahead and shake that up. Once that's done, go ahead and apply it into your snow globe. The reason I don't fill it up all the way initially is just so I have room to shake up my glitter before sealing it. So we're gonna not fill this up all the way, but a good amount, and then we're gonna clean off the surface, and then we are going to temporarily close the holes with, I personally use paper towels and painter's tape, just again to temporarily hold it together. That way I can shake this up. You can see how that glitter is kind of clumping in the top. We want to avoid that because we don't want the glitter to dry in that position. We want to make sure your solution and your glitter is thoroughly mixed so we don't have any issues later on. So once that is done and I'm happy with the way it looks, I'm going to go ahead and fill this up the rest of the way, and then we're going to let it degas overnight. I have been asked what degassing means. Basically, you're just letting the air escape out of your tumbler, because when you're initially filling this up, there are going to be air bubbles in your solution, and we don't want any of that affecting our tumbler later. So we're going to let it sit overnight to let that air escape out. You can see how full it is right now. So after letting it rest overnight, you can also let it sit for 24 hours or as long as you need to, but you can see how much air was left over after letting it sit overnight. So we're gonna refill this tumbler so that it looks as full as possible. And to do that, if you have 2 holes like I do, go ahead and plug up one of them temporarily. I'm just using a paper towel. You can see how much air is still there with that big pocket of air just sitting there. Go ahead and plug up one of your holes, tilt it at an angle, and this is gonna allow you to really squeeze in as much water as possible. During this step, I also like to drop some rubbing alcohol inside of the tumbler. That's going to help pop any micro bubbles that are still in your solution. And you want to make sure you are pouring your solution in slowly. You don't want to overflow the bottom of your cup. And again, if you are working with 2 holes like I do, repeat the process with the second hole. So go ahead and flip your tumbler around and use the second hole. This is going to help really work those air bubbles out. And you're gonna go ahead and keep repeating this process as necessary until you are satisfied with how it looks. You can see right here, those air bubbles are working themselves out as I am switching holes throughout the process, and also spraying rubbing alcohol inside as well. Again, another big pocket of air popped out while I was working. So once I'm happy with how it looks and it's nice and full, I'm gonna go ahead and clear my surface. You wanna make sure it is dry as possible for this next step. You're gonna go ahead and plug up your holes. I use mini glue sticks to plug my holes up, and you don't wanna cut them too small. I cut one there that was too small initially, but I'm using these mini glue sticks to plug my holes. You can see they're a decent size and they're going to fit perfectly inside your snow globes. The drill bit I used in the beginning is a 5/16 drill bit size, and it fits these glue sticks perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and place those directly inside the holes. They fit nice and flush. You don't want them sticking out. And before we seal the holes, we're going to again clean our surface, and you really need to make sure it is as dry as possible. When we're applying the UV resin, we don't want any water spilling out. When we add the UV resin over it, if the resin is touching the water, it's not going to actually adhere to the cup, which I'm going to show you how that works here in a second. The UV resin I'm going to be using is the UV resin from Resin Rockers. It is my personal favorite on the market. I've tried a lot of other ones, but nothing beats Resin Rockers. So I'm going to start by covering the holes. Once I have that laid out, I'm going to grab my lighter and just briefly hover them over the resin. That's going to help pop any of the micro bubbles in the resin. And then I'm going to put it under my UV light. This is how I have my setup. I just have 2 empty cups and my UV lamp. That way my tumbler just fits right underneath it. So I'm going to cure that for about 120 seconds, and I'm going to go ahead and shake it. If I initially feel water in the beginning, I'm usually okay, but I do like to put it on a piece of paper to see if there's any leaks. On this one, there was a leak, and you can see here I'm pulling it off. You should not be able to pull the plug off that easy. That tells me that there was water underneath the resin. So I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process again to reseal that. So I'm going to spray some rubbing alcohol, refill any of the little bit of water that leaked out, and then I'm going to seal the hole again with UV resin and repeat that whole process again to make sure that it is in fact sealed. Once I have cured it, I'm going to go ahead and put it back on the piece of paper to see if it is leaking anymore. Once I'm happy with that, then I can go ahead and move on to the next step. You can see here I'm testing it again. The second time it worked out great. So the next step in the process is to cover the bottom with glitter. This step is not necessary, but I do like to do it just to add a little bit of flair to the bottom of the tumbler instead of just leaving it blank where you can still see those holes. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and get some UV resin on the bottom and mix it with some glitter. The glitter I'm going to be using today for the bottom is taffy from itsprettypersonalglitter.com as well. Again, I will link the information below so you can check out my suppliers and vendors. You could do this in a separate measuring cup if you want, but I don't like to waste the measuring cup, so I'm just pouring the glitter directly onto the UV resin, and I'm mixing it with a silicone brush that I got from Resin Rockers, but you can also find them on Amazon as well. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this up thoroughly and make sure that I'm also applying it evenly. So I'm going to spread it out nice and even. And then I'm going to grab my lighter and just pop any air bubbles again in the resin. And this also helps kind of loosen the resin up and helps even it out. And then I'm going to cure that again for 120 seconds with my lamp. If it's still tacky after the first round, you can go ahead and put it back under the light again. Once it is solid and smooth, if you're using a fine glitter like I did, you should be okay to just go ahead and apply your sticker if you want. If you use a chunky glitter, you may need to do another layer before adding your sticker. These stickers were custom ordered from Cuts Vinyl. I will also link them below. They do tumbler wraps, special stickers, and other vinyl needs that you may have. They have everything, so I'll link them below. And I'm going to go ahead and put another layer of UV resin over the top. Again, make sure it's nice and smooth. Pop any air bubbles, cure it for another 120 seconds or until it's solid. Once all of that is done, you are good to go. And y'all, I have done these a few different times, but I'm super happy with how this one came out. I added some extra strawberry pieces compared to my normal amount, but I hope this video was helpful. And if you guys have any questions, drop them below. Make sure y'all hit the subscribe button for weekly videos. And if y'all haven't done so, make sure y'all check out my social media. I post regular content on a daily basis. And I also have a Facebook group. I will link it below so you guys can join that. We have giveaways, and it's also just great for additional support. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.